In the business information update today, Richard K. Powell is the Chief Executive Officer at the Victoria Mutual Group, and he now joins us to talk about its policies related to fee-based income. Morning, Mr. Powell.
Morning, Ralston.
How are you doing?
I'm very well, thanks.
Okay, Raoul Pinnock from Barita Investments is also with me this morning.
Hi, Raoul. How are you?
Good morning.
Okay.
Good morning to all the listeners.
Yes, sir. Now, why did you feel it necessary to issue some sort of a clarification? The ad started off by saying that Victoria Mutual wishes to clarify.
Well, Ralston, unfortunately, in dealing with this issue, the Victoria Mutual, as a mutual building society, has been lumped in, so to speak, with all of the other deposit-taking institutions, the banks. So in that sector, the deposit-taking institutions, regulated sector anyway, it comprises commercial banks and building societies.
Right.
And we tend to use a broad brush in dealing with them. The truth is that in relation to the matter of fees, while the services are very similar, the building societies have a more limited range of services than the banks.
Yes.
By regulation, actually.
Yes.
But the services they offer are very much bank-like products and services. But in relation to the question of fees, we have a much different posture than the commercial banks.
Yes.
And it really is an outcome of our business model. We are.
Yes.
We are basically a member-based organization owned by the members, and so all of our savers are owners of the business.
Yes.
It's very much like the credit union model.
Yes. Yes.
And so the way that we don't seek to maximize profit, which is what is done by the stock companies, the commercial banks and so on.
Yes.
Certainly those operating, because there's no basis in Jamaica under our statutes for having a mutual bank. In other societies, other jurisdictions, that you do have mutual banks.
Right.
But so we don't seek to maximize profit. What we do is create value and return that value to the members in various ways.
Yes.
And the way we seek to do that is through offering the best value proposition that we can to those members. So we seek really at all times to offer them the best savings that they can get on savings rates that they can get, the lowest mortgage rates that they can get. In fact, the total mortgage value proposition, not just the interest rate.
Yes.
When you look at the total package, what is the effective interest rate, taking into account, the usual commitment fees and so on that are charged elsewhere.
Okay.
And then in relation to fees for transactions, whereas we do seek to recover some fees, some of the transactions, the costs of the organization to provide those services. For the most part, we charge very little by comparison to what the market charges. We are deeply discounted.
Yes.
And in very many instances, those services are free.
Yes.
So, so I think it is because of a lack of understanding that we tend to get
lumped into
those. And in fact, I recall seeing on two recent TV news programs where this matter was being discussed, the image of Victoria Mutual's building on Halfway Tree Road.
Yeah,
the second image to come up when discussing high fees. The truth is that our fees are at the low end of the market. So that what you'll find if you look at the report has only just come to my hand, so I haven't actually had a chance to study it. But I think what you'll find, based on our knowledge of the fees and our surveys of the fees in the market, is that the mutual organizations charge much less than the commercial banks.
Yes.
And in fact offer many transaction fees that are not charged for, many transactions are not charged for, because they're seen by us as a privilege of membership.
Yes.
It is not a means of earning revenues to maximize profit. It's the way we give back value to the customers.
Got you.
And so we thought it necessary to differentiate ourselves from the other institutions where these charges are being made, because we are not guilty of those charges.
Yes.
We feel it's important to let the public know that we really are at the very low end, because the mutuals are lower than the banks, and we're at the low end of the mutual range.
Okay.
So, Mr. Powell, given what fees are in the marketplace and consumer reactions, clients must be leaving those banks to come to Victoria Mutual in droves.
Well, the problem is that what I'm telling you is not well known. And this is why we have sought now to make the clarification.
Yes.
And in a sense, you may say that we have not done a good job of making that distinction in the past.
Right.
We have perhaps haven't blown our trumpet.
Yes.
But I'm looking at on page 4 of the report that was tabled in the Parliament, and in relation to building societies, of 37 items surveyed, Victoria Mutual was the low man in 25 of those.
Wow.
And many of them are free.
Yes.
No, as I said, there's a wider range of services in the commercial banking sector, and I think the surveys there covered 55 items. What I have not seen yet, and I don't know if the report does it, but I haven't seen it yet, is to compare the two together. They're compared separately.
Yes.
And I know for sure that the building societies are lower than the banks, and we are the low end of the building society because of who we are, how we treat with the business, how we treat with the membership. And remember now that these mutual organizations don't pay dividends to their shareholders in the way that a stock company would. So if in a stock company, the clientele, the customers, would be multiples of the shareholders in terms of number.
Yes.
In our case, they're one and the same.
Yes. Yes.
So we don't create value and give it back to a small subset of the stakeholders.
Yes.
That value is given back to all of the members, everybody.
Okay.
And we do it by way of better value propositions on the better pricing and better value on the products and services, especially so in the case of the transaction fees.
Okay. Will you now be embarking on a sustained effort to educate the public about your fees and your services?
Absolutely. Yes, we are going to do that because I think the time has come where we really need to differentiate ourselves in that regard because, the kinds of inferences that are being drawn are in our view, not desirable.
Yes.
And we don't wish to be associated with them because we are not properly should not be associated with those inferences.
Okay. Now, apart from the sustained effort, tell our listeners, you said that in terms of using ATMs, you do not charge a fee.
Right.
Tell our listeners a little more about that.
So, any Victoria Mutual Building Society ATM card holder can use that card at any point of sale terminal on the multi-link network or any ABM on a multi-link network, meaning a multi-link ABM that is an ABM that is owned by a commercial bank or a credit union or a competitor in the building society space or ourselves, free of cost, because the society absorbs those charges as a sort of member privilege, member benefit, and pays those charges where they arise. When those charges are billed to us by the multi-link proprietors of the multi-link system, the society pays those and doesn't pass them on to the member.
Okay. And that's been the case for a while, right?
That of course gives them access. It's very important. Remember that these organizations, the mutual, certainly business societies, were Victoria Mutual was founded in 1878.
Yes.
At that time, banking was set up for the mercantile class. It wasn't set up for ordinary people.
Yes.
And so it is out of a spirit of partnership that this mutuality arose, where people pool their resources, their savings, so that they could get a drawing being in this context, a loan to buy our own or build their own home.
Yes.
And so it is that spirit of partnership that in order to provide access to those who didn't have access to banking services, that gave rise to these institutions. So one of the benefits one of the motivations for us not to charge is that someone where we don't have a presence nearby can go into any ABM on the multi-link network, even in areas where we have no branches or no machines of our own, and gain access to their money without a charge.
Yes,
that is the motivation for doing it.
Yes, great. Now, tell our listeners a little more about your mortgage propositions.
Well, we think the best mortgage proposition in the market. We certainly have the lowest interest rate, and we have no charges in terms of transaction fees. We have no commitment fees, no transaction fees that are to be borne. The only thing that the mortgager or prospective mortgager has to bear would be the transaction charges by third parties for services that are required for the mortgage processing.
Okay.
So your valuation, your attorneys, stamp duties, any government imposts, but we don't charge a fee to that client for processing or for commitment fees or anything like that. We charge 9.29 is the rate that is being charged now. It's the lowest rate which matches the lowest rate in the market.
Yes.
And we don't have any other imposts on that. So it really, and in addition to which we offer a 50% discount on the valuation services
Yes.
through our subsidiary, Victoria Mutual Property Services Limited. So we think that, based on our knowledge, that is the best value proposition in the market at the moment.
Okay. Why have you not been more aggressive, and what has been the response of your members to these propositions?
Well, I mean, this is what I've just told about the mortgages is widely publicized.
Yes.
We have TV ads, we have billboards, even the tri-media billboards, and we have, media ads that advertises that value proposition, and
Yes.
and we certainly get a positive response from prospective members and existing members who want re-loans. Sometimes we make re-loans,
Yes.
or further loans, and they want to buy additional property or even maybe equity loans on their existing holdings.
Yes.
So we think that the response there is favorable. People recognize the value, but you will recognize, and your listeners will recognize that space has become far more competitive
Yes.
today than it was in the past.
Yeah,
in the past, when we had, you may say, the good or bad old days, depending on how you look at it, when we had high inflation and high interest rates,
Yes.
no other financial intermediary was offering a residential mortgage loan that was anywhere near affordable other than the mutual building societies.
Yes.
In
Yes.
fact, you and I, Ralston, remember back in the 90s when TD
Yes.
rates went up to as high as 45%.
Yes. Yes.
And financial intermediaries, rather than make a mortgage loan at what was probably the prevailing rate at the time, 18 to 20, which was already horrendous from the perspective of the borrower, but instead of lending at 18, to incur the cost of origination, the cost of administration, and the cost of default, they merely put their money in government paper.
Yes, certainly.
But the building society, because it's their mandate
Yes.
to help persons to own their own homes, continued to make those loans available at rates that were, acknowledged to be high in the overall scheme of things, but the best you could get in the market.
Yes.
And so we have a proud history of helping persons to own their home. And in doing so, we fundamentally believe that because the home is going to be the single largest investment the great majority of families who can afford a home will ever make, that it is really more than just a place of shelter, secure place of shelter, but it's a place where which can store value and create value, and provide financial security for those persons who acquire a home. Is usually the first step along the way.
Yes.
So we feel that we have a very important mandate, and we have been discharging it faithfully and well over 135 years, and we continue to do so.
Okay. Will you be applying for a banking license?
We haven't made any such decision at all.
Okay.
No, we have not applied, and we haven't made any decision to apply for a banking license.
Okay.
I mean, I can't tell what the future will hold.
Yes.
As you know, there are impending changes to the legislation in the form of the omnibus bill that is supposed to come to the House of Parliament.
Yes.
We'll have to see what that holds and see whether to what extent it may require us to adjust our business model. But certainly we have remained true to the exercising the mutual model, which is we run this business for and on behalf of the members for their benefit.
Yes.
And so that all of the value accretes to them. So, the capital that is set aside to provide for the growth and development and to withstand shocks, external shocks, is really owned by those members.
Yes, yes.
And if you take the collective of the mutuals in Jamaica, and I include here the mutual banking societies as well as the credit unions, it represents the single, perhaps the most widespread ownership of financial institutions in the country.
That's
without
true.
a doubt.
That's true. Yes.
And I think very important institutions on the landscape. And I get the feedback daily from persons who say, Victoria Mutual allowed me to own my own home. I'm indebted to Victoria Mutual.
Yes.
So it is very important.
Mr. Powell, is Victoria Mutual an indigenous organization?
It is indigenous. It was founded in 1878 by a group of clergymen headed by Reverend G.W. Downer, who was the then rector of the Kingston Parish Church.
Yes.
And on the principle that I've indicated, a partnership among people who did not have financial access to help themselves.
Yes.
Of course, this partner plan had the benefit of the security of the savings, because there are risks especially if your draw is near the end.
Yes.
And also that it recognized the time value of money and credited interest.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And so it really was a revolution in terms of access to financial services for persons who otherwise would not have had the benefit of getting a loan to buy a home or build a home.
Yes. Okay. Thank you very much, Richard Powell. We're out of time.
Okay.
All right, pleasure. Keep up the good work.
Thank you very much, Ross.
Okay.
Take care, bye.